So usually I do this at the beginning of the conference, and I forgot to do this. So I'm going to ask everybody to raise their hand when I say, how many in here are caregivers? How many have been diagnosed 6 months or less? How many have been diagnosed a year to 3 years? I'm sorry for you guys because you got hit during COVID. How many? 3 to 5 years? 5 to 10 years? 10 to 20 years? 20 to 30 years? 35 years? Thank you, Barbara, for being an inspiration. I love you. So as you can see, we have all different kinds of people here. Some are diagnosed, newly diagnosed, and some are not. And it is really a scary thought when you first hear the word cancer. And what we here at NCAN try to do is we try to encourage you to become advocates for yourself. We try to make sure that you get to the right doctors, ask the right questions. How many here have sent away for a free information packet? How many have called the hotline and have spoken to me? Okay. So, Michael, do you have a presentation? Okay. So, NCAN is here to support you. You know, I got diagnosed in 2001, and when I got diagnosed, there really was no information. I mean, none. There was the Carcinoid Cancer Foundation. There was nothing. And at the time, the Carcinoid Cancer Foundation only answered the phone Tuesday to Thursday. I got diagnosed on a Thursday. Carcinoid Cancer Foundation closes at 4 o'clock. I get diagnosed at 4:30. So what's the first thing you do? You go online and you start reading things. And back then it was very scary because all the statistics had me dead and buried in less than 5 years, and I had young kids. So it was very important to me to get as much information as possible. Like Dr. Gerstein said, I was very lucky because before my surgery, he had known about it, so he made sure that I had all the tests. And that doesn't always happen. Sometimes it's emergency and you don't have the right test done. But I had all the tests beforehand, so that was a good start. So actually, 19 years ago this month, NCAN had their very first conference in this very hotel. I became very close with Dr. Warner and Monica Warner. In 2002, I took over the Long Island Support Group. We went from 6 on, and like I said, we had over 300 people before I moved to South Carolina. And they kind of gave me, they were kind of my mentors, and they taught me all about NETs. This was not something I had planned. I was very happy being a homemaker at home and just taking care of my children. Little did I know that I would become an advocate across the country and around the world. I didn't know that I would be going and speaking to pharmaceutical companies, to doctors, and traveling all over the place. So in 2003, we had our first conference. Back up? There we go. So in 2003, we had our first conference, and we flew in Dr. Odorizio. And I know many of you know that he has passed away. But Dr. Odorizio, we flew in, and we came here to the Marriott, didn't tell anybody that we didn't have a dime to our name, gave him a credit card and said, we need a room for like 50 people. And they were like, okay, fine. We signed the papers, and we got out of there, and I looked at Robert, and Robert looked at me, and I said, how the heck are we going to pay for this? And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, well, we'll figure out a way. And so we sat down and we said, you know what, let's do a fundraiser. So we did our first dinner dance. Now it's called the gala. And we got all our friends and families together, and we raised $10,000. The next day we had the conference with Dr. Odorizio. The bill came $9,500. So we had $500 left, and that's how NCAN started. Never in a million years did I believe that I was going to be answering a hotline. For 19 years later, still answering the hotline 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. But Monica Warner had a different plan for me. Now, you got to remember, 19 years ago, there was no Facebook, There was no Instagram, there was no TikTok, there was nothing. There was AOL and AIM. Well, Monica thought she was doing me a favor. She thought she was speaking to a patient personally, and it turned out it wasn't. It was in a group chat. And she gave out my personal telephone number. So now, 1,000 people have my telephone number, and now the phone's ringing nonstop. Yes, I do have neuroendocrine. Yes, I can help you. And so that's how the hotline was formed. And to this day, the telephone number that we started was my house phone. We changed it to an 800 number. And to this day, 19 years later, we're still using it and paying for Optimum Online to keep my telephone number because I can't change it because everybody has it. But what we wanted to do was to bring education and bring awareness. 20 years ago, there was no zebra for neuroendocrine. Robert and I were the first organization for neuroendocrine to use the zebra. Who knows what the zebra means? Go ahead. Somebody? Okay. So there's two reasons. In medical school, the doctors are taught, when hearing hoofbeat, think of horses, not zebras. Look for the common, not the uncommon. Most of us who have intestinal carcinoid will have many bowel movements and things like that. So the first thing the doctor does is say, IBS, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis. Well, I went through all that during my 7 years. But the real reason is that no two zebras are alike. They have fingerprints or they have stripes. We have fingerprints, they have stripes. No two patients in this room that is a net patient are exactly alike. We all have different symptoms, we all have different markers, we all respond to medication differently. There is not two of us exactly the same. Well, I might have a small bowel net, and you may have a small bowel net, you might have different symptoms, and that is why we use the zebra. The zebra is also used for many rare diseases. So NCAN's mission was to grow awareness, which we did with the zebra. We wanted to help patients. We wanted to help educate medical professionals. We wanted to bring awareness to the general public. We wanted to help patients and family navigate their journey. So a lot of organizations, when you call, big organizations, they will talk to you for 10 minutes and then they're like, oh, I have to go, and hang up. I've talked to many of you for hours and hours at a time. If you need me, I will answer and I will stay on as long as possible. I will call you back, so if you call, leave a message. I am doing it down, it's not going. Up, there we go. So we have the hotline. That's the 866-850-9555. Call it between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I get calls all the time from Europe. It drives me crazy. Go to the website. If you haven't sent away for a free information packet, send away. It gives you all the information about the latest test, about the latest medication, resources, where to get financial help, Patient Advocacy Foundation, co-payments, all that stuff is in that packet. It's very important that you send away for it. Yes, there may be things in there that you might not need right now, but put it aside because one day you may need it. We have support group meetings, and like I said, in the past, Long Island was very active. We have a couple, make sure you go out and talk to Ted, sign up for the group. We're going to get it up and running. Since COVID, we haven't been able to. We do awareness events. On the tables, outside, and everything else. We have our walk coming up. It's virtual this year. It's really important that you get involved with this. This is how we keep our programs going. And then we want to teach you the best way to be your own advocate. Why do we do it? Because it's definitely needed. We know that there's a lot of patients out there that don't know how to advocate for themselves. They don't know the right questions to ask the doctors. A lot of the patients are older and they're old school. They believe that their doctor is God and that they know exactly what they're doing. And yes, there's a lot of great doctors out there, but there's a lot of doctors out there that don't know anything about neuroendocrine. And you ask them, do you know anything about neuroendocrine? Yes. How many patients you have? Oh, I treat, well, I have one other patient. No, you need to at least once in your lifetime, you need to go get a net specialist opinion to help make sure that you're getting the right treatment. That is how we continue to survive. Let's see. Up, where'd it go? There we go. Okay, now, this is really important, networking. I hope every one of you listened to what I said earlier. Meet the person next to you. If you don't know them, get to know them. Get their telephone number, get their email address. They all have, by networking is how you're going to make sure that you become a better advocate. You never know who you are sitting next to that might be able to help you. Outside, there are pins on the table outside. There's pins. Wear your pin. If somebody says, "Oh, that's a nice pin. What's it about?" Tell them about it. If you have a doctor that doesn't really know that much about nets and you want to get more involved, call me. I'll give you brochures to bring to the doctor's office. Talk to anybody that will listen to you, because you never know who might be sitting next to you or you're talking that you might actually save their lives, okay? The last couple of months, I've gotten to know a lot of people, and people from my childhood and from my high school years are contacting me now that their loved ones have it, their siblings have it, their nieces and nephews have it, and now they know me, and so they're able to get help. So you never know who that person is that you're talking to. You might be just saving somebody's life. Keep learning. Go to the conferences. Now, NCAN has every 2 weeks a new podcast. How many people knew about that? Okay. Make sure you watch the podcast. They're all on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. There's hundreds, over 300 videos on there. Use that as a resource. We have support groups on Long Island. We have a website. On Long Island, we have a Facebook page. How many are on that Facebook page? Does anybody keep up on it? Write notes every once in a while. Just check in so we know. Reach out to a neck cancer specialist. And if your doctor is not giving you what you need to find a new doctor. I can't tell you how many doctors I have fired over the years, but it has been a lot. If they're not listening to you, you know your body better than anybody else. They're not listening to you, you need to find a new doctor. During the 7 years, I was told ulcerative colitis, IBS, Crohn's disease, crazy. Don't say a word, Dr. Gerstein. And we actually had a doctor who had the nerve, as my husband was sitting next to me, had the nerve to tell me that I was bleeding from the rectum and going to the bathroom 20 times a day because it was a symptom of a bad marriage, as my husband was sitting there holding my hand. Robert stood up and said, "You don't think you're going to make me pay for this, do you?" But, you have to keep searching. You have to keep searching. Okay? That's how you're going to stay alive. And just because one doctor, one specialist is fabulous, they might not be the one for you. You might have to look for another one. I have my records with every specialist across the U.S., but you have to find the best one for you, okay? If you are not comfortable with the doctor, don't stay there. Find another doctor. If you're not comfortable with the treatment, remember, it's your body. If you don't feel comfortable, there's something that just doesn't seem right, don't do it. Listen to your instincts. Listen to what your body is saying to you. When I first got diagnosed, I went to one of the world's renowned doctors who wanted to start me on a chemotherapy. And I looked at Dr. Gerstein and I said, "I don't like that idea." And he said, "Absolutely not. No, we're not doing that. Absolutely not." And I went to another specialist and I spoke to him and I said, "What do you think?" And he was like, "No, that will kill you in about 6 months. I think you're better off staying where you are." And I was like, okay. Now, he was a top world-renowned doctor, but he wasn't the right one for me, because I knew in my heart that if I took that chemotherapy, I wouldn't be here, because I have other complications. So go with your heart. If something doesn't seem right, go. Please make sure you stay up on your test. CAT scans, blood tests, gallium scans. Women, your mammographies, your pap screenings. Men, your prostate thing. Just because you have neuroendocrine doesn't mean you can't get a secondary cancer. You need to do that. Caregivers, that goes for you too. You are so busy taking care of us that you forget to take care of your own health. You're not going to be any good to us if you're not here to help us, okay? So I need you to remember that. That is really important about being your own advocate, is making sure that you stay on top of the test, okay? Keep a catalog, okay? When you go to the doctors, I know this happens all the time to me. You'll walk in there and you see that white coat and you just forget everything in your mind. Everything just goes blank. And the doctor says, hey, how's the diarrhea? Fine. How's your blood pressure? Fine. Any abdominal pain? Nah. And then Robert will be sitting in there and he'll go, Dr. Gerstein, that's not true. She was in the bathroom 20 times. Yeah, that's not true. So you have to be honest with your doctors. And if you forget when you're there, this is why you need to keep a diary 2 or 3 days before you go. Just 2 or 3 days. I did this, I ate that, this is what happened, because it happens to every one of us. And like I said, I'm guilty of it, 100%. So I'm preaching it, but I didn't do it. So please take my advice. It's really good, because if you go in the doctor and you're telling him you're fine, or that you're not having diarrhea, or your blood pressure isn't fluctuating, are you flushing? No, I'm not flushing. How are they going to know? They can't read your mind. They're not with you 24/7. But a loved one, if you bring a loved one into the room with you, or you take notes the week before and say, hey, this is what I did, then they'll be able to understand a lot better what's going on and get the true, honest picture. So please remember to do that. The other thing that I really, really strongly feel about, how many of you buy cookies, candy, all kinds of stuff for your doctor's offices during the holidays? Nobody? Okay, we're all guilty of it. Instead of buying stuff when they have 100 other patients bringing stuff in, why not have your doctor have you give them a NANETS registration so they can go and continue to learn about the disease from other experts? This is very important. This is how we grow our community. This is how we get new patients. This is how we get new doctors to learn more about it. There's an organization called NANETS. It's the North American Neuroendocrine Tumor Society. They've been in existence since 2006. There's like 300 and something members. And it's very important that they learn. So, they might not know too much right now, but you get them that registration, and, the year thing, they can get articles, they can talk to other doctors. Eric Luz also has a foundation, the Healing Net Foundation. I mean, there is so much literature out there for the doctors. If your doctors don't know much about it, contact them and contact Healing Net, contact NANETS, and get information to send to your doctor. So those are really important parts of being your own advocate.